Okay, we have to pick up in lesson 11.5 where we left off in the middle of the third example. I don't know if you guys remember anything about what we were doing, but
I did.
Hardly.
so brief recap. We had denominators of x and x squared. So least common denominator when we talk about powers is the highest power. So we multiplied everything by x squared. So what I was trying to show here is putting an x squared over 1 in front of each term to multiply. We did our canceling. X squared canceled, an x canceled, and we just multiplied. And this is where we left off. I have x squared, an x term, and a 5. When I see x squared in x terms, this is where we want to talk about making the equation equal to 0. Now, you could do this either way. I like a positive x squared term, personally. And so, I'm wondering how I did this in the notes. Yeah. What I would do is move my x squared to the other side and my 6x to the other side so I can get my x squared to be positive. Is what I would look at there. So, in other words, to move since it's a minus x squared, to move it to the other side, I'm going to add x squared. If I add x squared on the right, I'm going to add x squared on the left. In order to move the positive 6x, I would minus 6x. If I minus 6x on the right, I would minus 6x on the left. So now, on the left, I'm going to have a positive x squared, a minus 6x, and the positive 5 that's already there. And that's going to equal 0. Okay. Run out of room. I'm going to bring this over here. What's my next step in solving x squared minus 6x plus 5 equals 0? No, it is parentheses. Yep. We want to try and factor this. X squared breaks into x and x. And then in terms of numbers, we need numbers that give us a
Positive.
product of 5 and a sum of
Negative 6.
-6. So what multiplies to be 5 and then adds to be -6? Yeah. And if you think about it, the only thing that's going to multiply to be 5,
As well.
1 and 5, right? There's no other option. If we want to multiply to be positive, they both have to be the same sign. So if they're adding to be negative, they're both negative. And officially, this is an equation that's still equal to 0. So now if I have parenthesis times parenthesis equals 0, we're going to set each part equal to 0. So x minus 1 equals 0. X minus 5 equals 0. If it's x minus 1, add 1. If it's x minus 5, add 5. And we have solutions of
X equals
1 and 5. Okay. I don't have anything in my notes. Do they not do, maybe they don't do extraneous solutions. I don't have anything about it in my notes, so hopefully it doesn't pop up in homework. Hopefully I didn't just overlook it in the homework. So, okay, ready to try the next one? Okay, 5 over d plus 2 plus d over 5 equals d plus 5 over 5. A little bit different of a problem here. My first question, though, is still least common denominator, because that's what we're going to multiply by. So what do you notice about our denominators?
Well, there's the d plus 2, so we just go and multiply.
Okay, there's a d plus 2, and what else is there?
2 5s.
There's 2 5s, which 1 5 can represent the 2 5s, right? The 2 5s are in common, so there's a 5, and there's a d plus 2. So we're going to use our least common denominator as 5 times d plus 2. Okay, because we don't need to list 5 more than once, not for a least common denominator. So that means I'm going to take each part of this problem and multiply by 5 and d plus 2. So that means I'm multiplying the left and multiplying the right. Now, if you want, like what I was doing yesterday, I'm going to spread this out and write that in front of each piece. So I have 5 over d plus 2 plus, I'm going to leave a gap, d over 5 equals, I'm going to leave a gap, and I have d plus 5 over 5. And that means each part I'm going to be multiplying 5 d plus 2 in front of each part. What is 5 times d plus 2 as a fraction?
5 times d plus 2.
Yeah, to make it a fraction, we're going to put it over 1. Okay, look at the first set. 5 times d plus 2 times 5 over d plus 2. What cancels? What's on top and bottom that cancels?
D plus 2.
A d plus 2 on top cancels with a d plus 2 on bottom. Is there anything else where there's one on top and one on bottom that can cancel?
No, it's just 5 times 5.
No. We're left with a 5 and a 5, but they're both on top. And so those just get multiplied. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry down the plus sign. Next part. 5d plus 2 times d over 5. What cancels? 5 on top cancels with 5 on bottom. Anything else cancel? No. So I'm going to switch the order. I'm going to say I'm left with a d and a d plus 2. I'll multiply that next step. What do you not like there?
I was just looking at it.
Okay. On the right, what cancels?
D.
5 cancels with 5 again, yes. What remains? D plus 2 and d plus 5. Okay. That to me is the hardest part right there, is getting everything canceled out correctly. Now let's go through and do some multiplying. 25 is 25 plus, how do I multiply d times d plus 2?
Distribute.
Yeah, we're going to take that d and we're going to distribute. Excuse me. D times d is plus d times 2, 2d. On the right, how are we going to multiply? Yeah, this is parentheses times parentheses, so we're foiling. D times d, d squared. D times 5, 5d. Then 2 times d, 2d. And 2 times 5, 10. Okay. There's a couple of cleanups that need to happen here. don't know. What do you guys see?
25 and 10 add together.
The what?
The 25 and the 10 add together.
They're not going to add together because they're on opposite sides of the equation,
Oh, never mind.
but you'll end up having to subtract one over to the other. What we can add, do you see the 5D and 2D? Yeah, 5D and 2D can add. On the left, I'm just going to leave it for a moment. I guess I'll rearrange it. I'm going to say it's D squared plus 2D plus 25. On the right, it's D squared plus 5D and 2D is 7D plus 10. What happens when we go to get our D squareds on the same side? How would you move a D squared to the other side? Yeah, if it's a positive D squared, you're going to subtract D squared. If you subtract D squared on one side, subtract D squared on the other side. What happens with the D squareds?
They cancel.
They both cancel, don't they? And so once they both cancel, I'm left with
2D plus 25
equals.
7D plus 10.
Yeah. I don't know what you guys think, but that just became a way easier problem to solve.
Probably.
2D plus 25 equals 7D plus 10. I have D's and numbers. How do I solve?
Mirror for 2D over 7.
Okay. Try and get all of your variables together.
Yeah.
So if it's a positive 2D, I'm going to subtract 2D. 2D minus 2D,
0.
0, leave me with
D. Well, going to be 25.
25 on that side. On the right,
5.
7D minus 2D is 5D plus the 10.
Yeah, simplify that. 2. No? I think that's
Subtract the
nice.
10 from the 25.
Yeah, and that's right.
I would have said if it's 5D plus 10, to move the 10 over, we're going to subtract 10. Subtract 10 from the other side. 25 minus 10 is 15,
And then
equals 5D.
that goes with 10. 5 times 3.
So we're going to divide by
Divide by 5.
5.
Then you get D equals 3.
D equals 3.
Alright. Actually, some of them.
Okay. Okay. On the bottom two, they can be done just like the other two, in that multiply by the least common denominator. Okay? Least common denominator on when there's a b plus 2 and a b minus 2, least common denominator is going to be,
B plus 2 times B minus 2.
right, b plus 2 times b minus 2. And we can do that, and it's going to work out the same way. Shortcut. Do you guys remember cross products?
No.
If you have a fraction equal to a fraction, and is that what I have here?
Yeah.
It doesn't work on the uppers. Like the last one was fraction plus fraction equal to a fraction. You can only do cross products when it's fraction equal to a fraction. If you have that, though, you can multiply the diagonals and set them equal to each other. So if you want the shortcut here, we could multiply
3 times B minus
3 times b minus 2 and set it equal to,
0.
no,
No.
the other cross product,
5 times B plus 2.
5 times b plus 2.
I think how to word it maybe so I can remember it. 'Cause that word I've never.
Yeah, I mean cross products just, it's a cross and you're multiplying.
Multiply.
Yeah. Cross products, cross multiply.
Oh, cross multiply is what I heard. Yeah.
Okay. I said the fancier word, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we solve. So, what do you know about 3 times b minus 2? Distribute it. And then I'm going to have
3B minus 6.
On the right,
5b plus 2.
multiply 5 times b plus 2, and it is 5b plus 10. Like earlier, I have b's in numbers.
3 and 5.
Okay, we want to get the 3 and 5 together, so Makaylee's going to tell me to subtract 3b, isn't she?
The small one.
I get it. I'm not going to argue. So if we move the smaller one, the 3b, to join the bigger one,
6 and 2.
negative 6 equals 2b plus 10. If it's 2b plus 10, subtract 10. Negative 6 minus 10.
Oh, negative 16.
Negative 16 equals 2b. How do I solve for b?
Divided by negative 16. Wait, no.
Divide by 2.
What did I do?
We're trying to get b by itself. Since it's 2b equals negative 16, divide by 2.
I messed that up because I thought that my b was a 6. And so
Ah.
I did that all wrong.
Okay, yes, you have to be careful about b's and 6s. So b is negative 8 in the end once you...
Yeah.
Okay, one more. X minus 3 over x plus 1 equals 1 over x plus 1.
Yes.
What am I going to suggest that you could do here? Cross products, cross multiply. So, x minus 3 times x plus 1 is equal to
X plus 1.
x plus 1 times
Times 2 from
1.
I don't know. I'm like slower.
me too.
How do I multiply x minus 3 and x plus 1?
You can't love that. X is
Foil.
foil.
FOIL. X times x
X squared.
squared. X times 1,
1x.
1x. Minus 3 times x,
3x.
Minus 3.
minus 3x. Minus 3 times 1,
3x again.
Minus 3.
just minus 3. On the right, what happens when you do 1 times x plus 1?
It's x plus 1.
Yeah, I mean, you can multiply that 1 if you want, but it's x plus 1. Clean up your left.
1x is 3x.
1x minus 3x is
Negative 2x.
negative 2x. So x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals x plus 1.
So you can do parentheses.
Not yet.
Never mind.
You want to save the parentheses for after you have gotten the equation to equal 0. So I'm going to subtract x and subtract 1. So x squared
Minus 2x minus x minus 3 minus 1
and what is minus 2x minus x?
minus 3x
Minus 3x. What's minus 3 minus 1?
minus 4.
Minus 4.
Now parentheses.
Now that we have the equation equal to 0, parentheses. X squared,
Yeah.
x and x, multiplying to be negative 4, adding to be negative 3. What are my options for multiplying to be negative 4?
Minus 4.
A 4-1 combo is going to get me the 3. One of them has to be negative. To get the negative 3, it's negative 4. And now what?
X minus 4 equals 0.
X minus 4 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. If we x minus 4, we're going to have to add 4. So x equals 4. X plus 1, we're going to subtract 1, so x equals negative 1. Here's where it happens. Okay, guys. I did not, and I should have been having you, but I was talking about solution. I started mentioning, I don't know how much I mentioned out loud, but what I call extraneous solutions. Solutions that don't work.
Yeah, you just said hopefully I have enough homework.
Well, but I didn't see, I do have this problem on here. I totally missed this problem where we have an extraneous solution because here's the deal. What is my denominator? What's the bottom of a fraction never allowed to be?
Lower than
0.
It can't equal 0. What happens? I have a solution here of negative 1. What happens if I put negative 1 into this denominator?
oh, that becomes 0.
That becomes 0. Are we allowed to have 0 in the denominator? No. So what happens here is that this negative 1
Cancel that.
doesn't actually work as an answer. And so the only actual answer is x equals 4. Now, we didn't have that happen anyplace else, so we don't have to really worry about it. But be aware, because that could happen on homework. I mean, over in this one, when there's a b plus 2, you can't have negative 2. When there's a b minus 2, you can't have positive 2. So it just kind of depends if either of your answers make your denominator equal to 0. That's a no-go. Okay? And you know your homework is lesson 11.5 in Math Excel. And you have a little bit of work time. Use it.